with like,
I don't miss it.
but then I haven't seen the next one with the ratings uncovered. Oh, well, who did it?
Well, Brad's one of those people that.
Well, I know that, but there was more than one.
You can't burst that whole there.
Oh my God.
No, there's one license. Yeah.
And you know Bob Sorrell?
Hmm?
Do you know Bob Sorrell?
Yeah.
Okay,
Me and Jeff were real good friends. We used to do, I do remember back in the day when
that
he
was a
would do,
smart way to do it.
we would do the custom horsepower presentations because he always went high-end homes and all there. And that was something, he had foil stamped Sorrel Realty on him.
Yep, he's right there on Line Avenue.
I want to give Brian an opportunity to do a quick commercial for us. And I know most of you have met Brian before. Known Brian for 20+ years. I trust him. I trust him. Doesn't mean that you're going to automatically trust him, right? It's the build a relationship, and that's really what his focus has been. But you just a couple things that make you different. I think it's probably a couple things.
And you mentioned, like, he kind of teed me up a little bit as far as what makes us different. Now, last time when we were talking, I did the old Google machine. It's agents and lenders, bankers. What is it that you guys find, prefer? So what they said was on Google, reliable pre-approvals, fast turn times, on-time closings, marketing support, diverse product offerings, and lead generation. All huge. I think that those are all added value that I would love to bring to the table. But personally, when I dove into it a little bit more, thinking, okay, everybody does this. Everybody says that they've got the fast turn times, and all of those things are of added value. I think what really separates us as citizens, and what I value the most, is just the customer experience, where it's not just the three famous words, the clear to close. Right? Now, those are the things that we all want to hear. When we get the clear to close. And what I would give value as much as that on the front end of it. The front end is huge. That's the relationships. But what I look is also long term. And also after that clear to close happens, are your partners, are they there at closing? Are they bringing a housewarming gift? Do they bring, send out birthday cards that's co-branded with your information? Our company provides all of that. And other things that I provide, because I don't look at it just as a one-time transaction. It's all of my closings, they all have an electrician, they all have an HVAC guy, they all have a painter. My wife is a consultant; she does home designs for kitchens and bathrooms. So just those little things, as it's again going to not just be a one-time transaction, it's that relationship, which I find important. More important, also kind of with that being said, Citizens Bank, we're a full service bank. I don't know who your relationships are, if it's, NFM or cross country or whoever it is. If it's not somebody who's going to service the loan, I've always, seen from my experience, I was working with a lender in the past, before it was a bank. I've done this 20-some years. The lending part of it was always frustrating because there was always something they were coming back to me for post-closing. Go get this for your client. We didn't get this in underwriting. So the loan's closed. Now your buyer's wondering, Tabitha, Brian's calling me because he still needs this. These things happen with Citizens. We service it front to back. It's not sold on the secondary market. A lot of these other companies do that, and it's gonna. They don't think about. When that experience happens post-closing, it's not just me, it's you, right? I mean, you guys are the ones that introduced your banker to them. And so they think about these things. And so that's where, as far as the servicing side of it goes, once we stamp it CTC, that clear to close, it's done. We hold it, we retain it. There's none of this escrow screw up that happens at the end because, your lender didn't collect enough escrow. Now why is my payment, $200 more? These things happen. They call the lender, and your lender's like, well, we're not servicing your loan anymore. I'm sorry, I can't help you. That stuff is what happens every day. And with us, it's once it's clear to close, it's done. I show up at closing, bring your housewarming gift, you know, and every birthday they have, an anniversary, and all those things are important. That's the added value, the customer experience that I like to, again, that I take pride in, because the front end stuff, you know, turn times, anybody can say that, right? It's the extra stuff that you do so that the repeat clients, they come back, they think, okay, thank you, Tabitha, for referring Brian to me, because I had this furnace that went on, or I had this, you know, issue, and the first thing I drew back to was that email and that brochure he gave me with that person's information. So I just feel like just taking those extra steps, it's not just the one and done. As I mentioned to you last time, I closed over 400 loans last year for a reason. And those things just don't happen out of coincidence. So my little spiel is just that itself, is that it's the customer experience that I think I value more than anything. Clear to close, get you there fast, can absolutely. But it's the stuff post-closing that they're going to remember you buy. And because they're not going to call you when they have, you know, an escrow shortage. They're not going to call you and why am I getting, you know, this, why is this happening now? They're going to call me. And if you're not servicing it, I just think it creates, you know, some of those gaps of separation and frustration that, you know, other lenders can't offer. So that's really all I had. Oh, thank you. Does anybody need anything, questions, answers?
You could do construction firms.
We do, and we do jumbo, everything. So we construction firm, doctor's loans. We have portfolio programs. We cover your agency, of course, Fannie, Freddie. We follow those. And then we have the portfolio stuff that I think is just outside the box. I had a client, they've been shopping for a home months on end, constantly getting outbid. Then they finally get one that they find that they want. Rates since, you know, January are up almost 2 points. They're out of the market, right? That this house is too expensive for me now. Well, let's think outside the box. We have interest-only programs. Everybody's all scared of this stuff, right? Well, it's not a bad product. It's 10 years where it's fixed, and it gives them now a payment that they can get the house, because these interest rates are just temporary, in my opinion. You know, if you've been in this industry long enough, you've seen these ebbs and flows. They're at near 6% now, but in a normal time, you know,
Historical average is 7%. We're still good.
we are, but you know, as far as then just when we come back down to get the reality of rates at 4.5%, this person that took that interest only because they can't afford it at a 6% fixed now can go back into this payment and refinance at a later date. Just having those additional options, interest only, ARMs, and we also have portfolio programs where you don't fit the agency, you don't fit HUD, you don't fit VA, if you don't fit Fannie and Freddie, your debt ratio is over by a few percent. If you have compensating factors, we will hold and securitize that loan. You don't have to fit just that box that everyone else does. Because if it's you know, I use cross country and NFM a lot because they're kind of some of the bigger hitters around town. A lot of people like them, but you're stuck in their box. And then a lot of this stuff post closing are issues that if you read their reviews, you see it all the time. We don't have that. We service it front to back, and you know, HELOCs. So we're going to give you that if you need money now versus selling your house, the contingency stuff, right? Because you got to get your equity. We can give you a HELOC today in no time flat. So you can have it, so you don't have to go contingent with your house selling to grab your equity. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you.
Don't forget your rounds, guys.
Thanks for following up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll be around. Like I said, I'm just gonna, you know, let me show my ugly face around here as much as I can. And I'll make sure you guys can get, you know, food.
And I have a card.
You cracked the code.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not a mystery.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And he just defined his value prop.
Yeah.
Right?
Love it.
I'm gonna go grab some lunch. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
See you again.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Never found that lockbook?
No, I haven't. It's right here.
I think it's right here.
It's on the back.
Oh, the opposite side of it.
It's locked. It's just some of these cables aren't as tight as others.
Yeah.
It is locked though. It doesn't fall really easy. It's locked.
Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. We're used to it.
When did we buy these papers?
I know. Just some of them just need tightened and I don't know how to do it. anymore, and it's not hard.
In
You might even
retrospect,
get out.
probably.
Thanks.
Hey,
Some
the OP
people-
back then was.
Who was
cheap.
it, were you in here when somebody like felt like was sitting on the table and fell off right into a chair?
No, oh wait, yes, we were like
Or
making
something.
decorations. And she stepped on the side and like fell and sat in a chair, and we were like. That was great.
I laugh because half of these are backwards.
Yeah. Yes.
You know how to tell?
Your knees moved them around.
The
Bang
leg,
your knees.
well, the leg is longer on the
Right.
side that you should be sitting on.
Mhm.
That's funny.
Because they've been rearranged so many times
Uh-huh.
lately.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I saw at the team meeting, I was on Zoom for a while.
Wasn't that nice? I thought that looked really nice.
And put a big square,
That was nice. And everybody was like,
see each other.
happy, will you?
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's how we do our team meetings with our team.
Mhm.
I'm just happy that in the photo that they took, I was actually smiling because in the last photo that I think we took at a meeting, I just looked like a death player.
RBF, Amanda. I have it
Matt was like, why are you with me?
Do you suffer from RBF? People always think there's something wrong.
I do.
Have you seen that? I do. So I was taking my high school senior pictures, and the guy's like, well, let's try when not smiling. And I was like, okay. I was like, oh, never mind. Maybe smile a little. Just try to smile a little. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, it's just what I look like.
Christy's husband doesn't smile because he has a chip
Ever.
tooth, and he always looks mad. I'm like, in your wedding picture, sir, you better smile. Hardly at all.
No, he still didn't really. But all I see is whatever goes on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm assuming.
Oh my God. He was in a really bad mood the other morning, and they were going somewhere. And his hair's really long now. And so he had a ponytail in, which is cute, but I would never tell him
No,
that.
you don't. Well, your face says it, you don't like it.
I don't know. They were driving somewhere, and Christy's over here, and he's singing to the radio. She's filming him. He was in a really bad mood, but he was singing, trying to get himself in a good, better mood. And pretty soon you see his hand just come over like this. He's driving, and you see his big hand come over like this and grab her phone and throw it on the floor.
Oh my God. So is he working with the team now?
No, he hasn't passed his test.
Oh, okay.
That's why he was in a bad mood. He failed his test, his national on Saturday. He was in a really bad mood because she said over and over and over, take the crammer, just take the crammer over and over and over, and he didn't. And he didn't. He goes, I've read the books, I've taken the classes. They finished classes 3 months before their wedding.
Oh, that's hard.
So,
Josh, did anybody use, I know using that preparation?
I want to say Alex Mail did, he's been licensed for a few months, but he's a good resource. He's a smart person.
Did you join the paid version of Prep Agent or just still using the free version?
I used it, well, so when I was getting, that was actually a lot. Mediocre answers. And, no, I mean, she was just
No,
like,
I
I
just
don't
feel
remember.
like most
like,
people, they get licensed and then they just put all that in the rear view and they just. move on.
Yeah, so, but I asked someone who had just taken the exam, and he was like, I used preparation to study. He was like, the grammar for me, whatever, and he's like, I didn't work well with it, but preparation was really well with me. So I looked into it, it was like $30 for like to access the courses.
it's called Prep Agent.
Prep Agent, yeah,
Okay.
it was
I've heard
the
very
way,
good
I think the
things.
reason, I kind of did both, but I recommend Prep Agent to everybody because
So did it match the actual questions?
I was gonna say, the way they actually ask the questions are not identical, but very similar to the way they're worded on the exam.
Okay.
Because on Prep Agent, or also on the PSI, you can buy like last year's test or something,
Mhm.
which people should definitely buy last year's test and take. I mean, why not? They're gonna be,
Right.
right, I mean, the concepts
like
are
half
gonna
of
be the
it, yeah.
exact same, like you might as well. It was like, want to say it was $60 for last year's test and the answers. Just as a study, I'm like, I'd rather.
Really?
I mean, you might as well, like.
I
That's
would
how I
rather
did.
spend that.
But I
much
realized so long ago, they didn't have national and state,
Yes.
and they handed you a calculator with number two pencils. And we had to actually do a HUD. They said, you know, Bob and Sally bought a $200,000 house, the taxes are this, or closing on this day, calculate the HUD one closing statement, which I tell you, I can explain a HUD one closing statement, or whatever they call them now, closing documents, to any buyer or seller, and I probably do a better job than half the closing agents out there, because I know exactly how they calculate every question.
Well, and you can see if there's something wrong, like
Right away.
I've had the title people
So,
mess up
okay,
taxes
so
before.
he passed his state, but he's failed the national twice now. So prep agent would help with
Yeah,
that?
so Pepe does have that. They have a whole national section, and then the other 50% is you just pick what state live in.
Really?
It helps you
I
with
did
that.
better on the national than I did the state.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I was disappointed. I mean, I bought the biggest package at Andros. It was difficult because I did it all online,
So
and it was in reverse order. You know, I mean, it just defaults to reverse order, so I'm starting willy-nilly at stuff. You know, the younger guys on the team, I think everybody was, it's like, don't tell them how crazy it is, you know, I mean, I don't know what it is, but it was like, yeah, they try to give you some information, but it was
disappointing.
I spent tons of time on math,
Yeah.
really,
That
Yeah.
never
you know,
comes
because
up.
there was tons
That's
of
never
math in the
asked
course.
on anything.
I had
One
maybe,
money question.
I had
Really?
maybe 6 questions on the exam. And I think I joked with some of you, I think 70% of that exam I've never seen.
Yeah.
And I did the on-site Kramer, which I was almost ready to lose my mind because it took 4.5 hours to go through the answers just because
I
somebody,
gotta be honest, the Kramer, Dave, not for me.
because somebody wanted to hear themselves talk how smart they were about things. I just tell me the answer and why.
Right, and then move on.
Then I did what do you call it, the Kramer that you can do over and over and over.
You know what, so
I
that's-
did that like 4 times. So I did the physical one day, and then I did 3 back to back to back within a day and a half. Then I took my test.
Okay. I struggled with I think if I remember correctly, the
CompuCram.
yes.
Yeah.
Is it that one that
The format's terrible.
the format, and if you get them wrong or something, from my memory,
It doesn't tell you what the
Doesn't tell
right
you.
It
answer
does not tell you
No.
why.
That's
does not
what he
tell
got
you-
mad about. 'Cause I
It's
said,
like,
hey,
you have
it's
to
like
go
you
back
got it
to-
wrong. It's like next, I'm like, what?
You
Tell
have
me
to
why
go
I got
back
it wrong.
to
Like,
beginning to find the right
yeah,
answer.
it's so, I just remember sitting there going, this
That's
is
not right.
not, this is bad.
During the
I wish I
classes,
knew
you
why I
get
was
the
he
wrong.
took that Friday night and he went and took his test Saturday morning
Yeah.
and said, because it didn't tell you what the right answer was. He's going through his principles of practice book and trying to find answers. He spent more time trying to figure out what the right answer was, but then didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, for me right now, I think a lot of people spend too much time doing practice tests, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Mhm.
And practice tests, every time you take a practice test, you show your brain a question
Mhm.
and you show your brain 1 correct answer
Yep,
and
that's it.
3
Three
wrong
wrong
ones.
answers.
Every time, over and over and over and over and over again, and then you go sit down for the test. And normally, if you would have studied material,
Yeah.
one of those answers would have looked familiar and stood out. But now you've seen them all so many times
They all stand out.
that you don't differentiate.
Uh-huh.
And everything's a trick.
Well, there's
Oh,
a-
yeah.
That's everything now.
Awful. It's always
And
been.
that,
For me, I
to
feel like
me,
you don't,
as
you
I
don't
haven't,
stress.
I haven't been in
the
school for
traditional
40
study.
years, I'm like, I'm not here to be tricked, I wanna learn.
I just studied vocab, like I made flashcards that were like.
People don't.
Oh, I got
study
the
Yeah,
material.
flashcards.
I like made them and was just like studying
Oh, you
vocab.
made that.
Front page, if you've
Back
got
in-
questions.
Back in my day,
You
they
did
sold
practice,
packets of,
like practice
flashcards,
quizzes
they don't sell
on
them
front page.
anymore.
If you get questions wrong, there's literally like a 2-minute video about every question.
Yeah, that's-
It's like I remember in the beginning, I was getting various types of easements. I like knew them, but for some reason, 2 of them to me are the same thing, whatever. So when I get the question wrong, it would pop up, it was just that specific one.
That's why
Perfect.
the one thing I did like about the Andros stuff, I actually like the videos on the online part better.
Yeah.
Because it's someone telling me.
Yeah, at least someone's
At
talking.
least someone's talking and I have to read it and, fry my brain for 3 hours. So at least it's someone talking for a little bit. was the same way. I took really good notes throughout the class. And I wish I went back and studied my notes more than I did the grammar.
Yeah, I was just, I was just a little tell
Yes.
you. How much is, like, I'm not getting better, I'm just finding out that I don't.
So I'm pulling out like 3 different books to find out.
Yeah, yeah.
Cinnamon put together a really nice graphic for me.
Yeah, I
If
would
I
sit
can
there
find
and
it,
do
I'll
that.
send
It
it
was
to you, or
confusing.
we can have Carrie send it to you.
Following
And
the book
it's,
sometimes, but it
um,
did look following the
recommended
course.
study
You could
materials.
still be the same.
And it
Chapter, but it
has
did
like a
chapter on
single
it.
quality,
And I'm
it
like, I'm not
has
seeing it.
the PSI, the recommended PSI study materials, not contrast.
Really?
And that would
Yeah, I know I
be
spent way too much time
much,
refining
much
my math.
more
skills.
to him.
Yeah.
than any other contrast.
And then you realize later on. it's gonna
Exactly
ask
what
all this
Antonio said.
crap.
Study the materials in the glossary,
Wouldn't it
PSI.
make more sense though if we spent
And
like
prep
25% of
agent.
the time on all that stuff? the
You can actually
legalities
watch
of
prep
life,
agent videos on
you know,
YouTube for free
The
Oh, really?
rights and all this stuff,
for
and
national.
then
Did he pass it?
75% on.
Yeah, he passed that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That's the other thing, I was sitting there.
Fill out a contract, what
Well, I know.
documents you should know. and
Like, I was sitting there
I would
almost laughing
stop
because
doing
I
practice.
was just saying, like, what you do in real life, and what you do in it, it's not even.
And students, that's right.
They're like, you might as well just not even take the exam, it doesn't really,
Right.
all the,
Right.
Like,
the
just
whole
put it
goal
on,
of
like,
it is
just
to
figure it
protect.
out, get through it,
That's it.
and
So
then
the
learn how
goal is
to.
we're
do
educated
it.
on the law enough, that we don't make mistakes, but,
Even though when I'm off track.
yeah. But my problem is, I don't have a problem with, I'm sitting, I don't have a problem with corporate business. Like, that's awesome, we need it, especially because
Last
it's also losing stuff, so
Last week.
my only issue is, I think, especially in Columbus, like.
And.
We're competing on, like,
At 10.
you know what I mean, it's so different,
11 after
where
10,
I
and then
wish the
it's
barriers
on
to enter the interest rate was actually higher personally.
We started
because-
at night.
I think the guys that are doing it for the right reasons, great. But if people who do it, like I was reading through that, this just got lost to teachers. The block foundation, they don't, you know, your furnace gas that comes out of the house. So my fear is, okay, you're gonna give somebody a bad
She
experience,
teaches plumbing.
and they're gonna think you suck.
She says never go
I
back.
really hear you suck. Like, I don't mean that, it goes for anything.
I get it.
Like, I almost wish.
Bye, guys.
See, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye, thanks. Bye, Tabitha.
Yeah.
It is frustrating because you do have, though, I hate to make the same statement and take away the ability to earn income part-time, whether you're a stay-at-home dad, stay-at-home mom, teacher, part-time anything. But when they have to cover on just, oh, you wanna buy a house, I got you. You know what I mean? And there's no
Real
Word.
experience.
where those of us that are here every day are like, this, dude, this is,
Yeah.
I'll be honest
I
with
put my whole
you.
wallet on it and said, I gotta do it.
I understand where you're coming from, and there are times when that is true. But really, I know of agents who also have a full-time job, who sell more houses and do it better
Oh,
Right.
than other agents who are full-time agents and are they just don't choose to do an amazing job.
Yeah.
Like, it's, to me, I have not seen a direct correlation between being part-time and sucking and being full-time and being good. I see a
Right.
lot of crossover.
I wish there was an inspection.
Well, I've known.
What?
I wish there was like I don't wanna say inspections, because that's not clear, but just as part of like the tests or just general, like very, very, very large general things. That's like my only, like you see so many things.
Like, you don't need to calculate feet in an acre, you need to know what type of AC,
Yeah, you
what
need
types
like,
of ACs are, yeah.
like
I
I heard
understand.
someone say like, oh, in one of your tools, like it's geothermal, and she was listening, she's like, I don't even know what that is. And I was like, okay. That's my, things like that. Like,
I only
Yes.
know stuff like that because I came out, I was running an HVAC company.
Yeah, so.
So I know about hot water tanks, I know about furnaces, air conditioners, geothermal.
It just helps.
Boilers and oil.
Pass that on.
All right, guys, I think our mic is and has been open this whole time. We're just chatting. But if you're here, we're gonna start the next class right at 1 o'clock. So until then, I am going to mute.
Should I move so I can get out of here? I was waiting.
No, you're fine.
That starts.
I was thinking about that.
Hey guys, we are gonna start the official class on time, not on realtor time, on time at 1 o'clock. And we will probably get finished up about, I'd say probably 2:30. So we are gonna do some of the exercises and we are going to do a little bit of script practice, but we're not gonna make the actual calls as a group session. But we will do some practice in that. So, and we will do a little bit of math, just a little. And there's going to be one point at which I ask you to look at your phones, but that's the only time I'll ask you to look at your phones. All right, let's see who we have here. We've got some Synergy folks are back in the room. Hello, is that Tammy? They don't have their sound turned on yet. Or if they do, they're just choosing not to listen to me. That's okay. Let's see. I like knowing who's here. All right. If you can hear me, unmute or turn on your camera and wave.
We can hear you. Well, at least I can.
All right, thank you. All right, so it's working. It's just a matter of if everybody has their speakers on. So that's okay. If it's working, then I did my part and I'm running. So I'm gonna go. All right. Get this out of the way for everybody here. Okay. I always want to start everything with good morning, no matter what time it is, during the day. So good morning, good afternoon. For you guys, good noon, because it's lunchtime. And I am Tabitha Gussler. I am currently a proud member of Jansen Associates real estate team, previous team leader, previous productivity coach, previous recruiter, teacher, trainer, all the fun stuff. And so today I am teaching Ignite. I have taught Ignite many, many times, but this is brand new material. So I am going to go through it as close to the recommendations as possible while still getting us out of here either on time or a little bit early. We are going to do some exercises. I do greatly, greatly appreciate participation, both in the room and online. So there's going to be a number of times where I ask you guys to share either experiences or ideas or results. And with your permission, what I'd like to do is if it's something that I know that we cover in this session, we'll just hit it right on, and instead of parking it, we'll just go through it and answer whatever question you have right then. If it's something that I know we're going to cover in depth during another session of Ignite, then we might park it and I can help you figure out which session that's going to be so that you can make sure to attend that one. Sound good? Okay. Thank you guys, by the way, for walking into this room, even though you have office space that you could be half watching on a computer, but you're in the building and you chose to come in here. I greatly appreciate having virtual faces and a combination of in-person faces to teach. So thank you. So we are going to go through, let me wake up the presentation here, some talk about generating leads, right? What we want to talk about today is kind of the KW system, some of the terminology that we use, especially that's used in command. For example, the difference between leads and contacts, right? The difference between a database and a data bank, and kind of go through and kind of lay the groundwork for some very specific lead gen activity that's going to be taught to you in the next two sessions. Right? So the idea is that you really kind of walk through 4 different spaces when you become a realtor, right? So first you need to learn about the business, then you need to create clients, follow up with them, and conduct transactions, right? Pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to ask you to like respect yourselves and me and listen and all that stuff. I don't think I need to do that with you guys. Is that okay? Is that fair? Okay. So with regards to lead generation, there are 5 sessions that are going to be in this particular section of Ignite. And so today, the one that we're going to walk through is how to generate or generating your leads, right? Then future courses will go through growing your database, capturing leads with open houses, capturing leads through social media, and capturing more leads, because the word other doesn't look nice as a class title, right? So out of curiosity, previous classes, and I have this in a note to check with you guys, previous sessions have asked you to define an accountability partner. That's part of your success strategies for in between the sessions. Does anybody actually have an accountability partner? You guys are gonna, so what's the difference between a teammate and an accountability partner for you guys?
Difference between what and accountability?
So you guys are teammates as well,
Yeah.
Right? So what's the difference between kind of how your interactions will work between one another as accountability partners as opposed to just interactions that you have with other members of the team?
I don't know. We kind of already try to do the accountability part. We're all trying to help each other grow.
Okay.
So I would say it's actually pretty similar to what we were already doing, but now we're just tying in what's going on in the class to it.
Okay.
So we meet once a week and talk about what, you know, I mean, we go over educational things, we go off of what we're doing and different things like that. We also fortunate we all push each other in regards to, did you get your calls in today? Did you get your touches in today? You know what I mean? Because we're all.
That's what I was looking for,
yeah,
right?
We're
You're
all,
checking in on specific activities.
Exactly. We're all
Perfect.
pretty good at one, pushing the others, and then 2, conversing on how to use different scripts, how each one of us, because, you know, obviously age differences and different styles, you're going to use a different way to use the scripts. The scripts are an outline or a tool given to us. So we kind of converse about all those things and push each other.
Perfect. Perfect. Good. Does anybody online have an accountability partner? She's asking us to talk and we're all just black screens.
I have a MAPS coach, so I use that as my accountability partner. Even though I'm not an
Okay.
agent, I still use it for
Oh,
what I
don't
do
have-
within the business.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for being a face and not only a black screen. I appreciate it. I like it a lot. All right, anyone else? All right, so we can move on. I think because of the way that we are teaching Ignite now, instead of doing class in the morning, activity in the afternoon, class in the morning, activity in the afternoon, which is the way that it was originally written, a lot of times what we can see is that lots of attendance in the classes, right? And then the activity isn't there because by the time you get out of this class today, you're like, I worked for 4 hours on my real estate business today. Does that make sense? And then you're going to come back in a couple of days and you're going to work 4 hours in real estate that day too. So an accountability partner or a small accountability group or whatever that looks like for you I think is extremely helpful. And so some of the things that we're going to talk about today are the specific things that you're going to want to discuss with the accountability partner is, hey, how many people did you add to your database, right? How many people did you make contact with? How many leads did you convert to a contact? How many two-way interactions did you have? How many times did you say the words real estate today? Those types of things, right? Great, let's go. As I told the folks in the room, and I'll tell you online, I'm juggling 2 notebooks and a PowerPoint. So if I get off track with any one of them, you guys just let me know and we'll catch it up. Sound good? All right. So the things we want to talk about today is you as the lead generator, the lead gen model in general, your sphere of influence and expanding it. And then we are going to talk about some lead gen best practices and your success systems. Okay. Right. My fear of failure was greater than my fear of lead generating. That is a direct Gary Keller quote. He was convinced that he could make it in real estate. And if you have never heard him speak, I love that he is super, super matter of fact about this. He's like, listen, here's the thing. I had an apartment and I had a car to pay for. If I didn't sell houses, neither of those things was happening. Oh, and by the way, I borrowed money from my dad to start this and I owed him back that money too. My fear of failing those things was far greater than anything anybody could have said to me on the phone, right? So we already know what our 6 core competencies are as a realtor, right? Do these look familiar, right? So before we can do any of the other ones, we have to have someone with whom we work, correct? Otherwise, I always joke around and I say real estate is a very, very, very expensive hobby as an intellectual pursuit. Does that make sense? Not saying don't know what you're talking about. What I am saying is we do not get paid to be very smart about the market. Unless you're going to start a podcast and get advertisers and the whole thing, then maybe you could get paid to be smart about the market. You need to know the market, but the point of that is to be able to generate and convert leads, right? So don't make it only an intellectual pursuit. Make sure you're doing both. Then you get to do all the other jobs, right? So let's be a little honest with ourselves. I'm supposed to read this to you. Who is having any of these thoughts as we dig into lead generation? There's no pressure to raise your hand. No. As a productivity coach, as a recruiter, as an agent myself, I can tell you I have had or heard every single one of these and 50 others that are not on the list, right? So what we can look at and what we really think around this is how can we adjust these things, right? They gave us the answers on this test, right? So my favorite is the first one and the last one, right? I think lead generation is really difficult replacing that with, and notice the doubt is in English class, the doubt is in present tense. and the affirmation is in past tense. Can you guys see that? Here, hold on. Let me take the screen off so you can read the whole thing. I was confusing effort with enjoyment. I think that's really interesting. Lead generation is actually easy. It's just not very much fun. And the last one, I'm afraid of making mistakes. I found that lead generation is nothing more than a set of tasks and skills that are well documented. The one I added, that's my personal one, is saying the right thing is less important than saying something. These people know me and they will support me. Right? The vast majority of lead generation that we're going to talk about today has to do with people who already know you, like you, would support you, people you already have in your sphere of influence. Those people have no idea what you were supposed to say. They just know you're friendly and you're reaching out. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Anything to add? Pretty straightforward stuff. All right, do refer to participant guide. All right, who here has ever heard of the term sphere of influence or SOI? Yep. So Colin, how would you define that? Or is it already in here?
It is in there.
Ah, feel free to read it to us.
Okay.
Good.
The sphere of influence or SOI is the group of people you know and who know you. That not only know you, they like and trust you and are most likely to do business with you or for others.
Okay. And so what are the two easiest places that you can find your SOI? One is in the book, one is not.
Phone and Facebook or Instagram.
Yes, absolutely. So your phone is one, and the way this is written, that's the activity that we're going to do. I would encourage you that when we do this really quick activity and we do some income producing calculations, I'm gonna wait a minute on that, that you consider not only the number of contacts in your phone, right, but also the number of friends that you have on Facebook or followers that you have on Instagram. Followers on Instagram, I feel like it's a little different than friends on Facebook, right? Depending on how your program, how your Instagram is set up and how you've used it in the past. But we're going to do a really quick activity. We're just going to calculate some potential. So this is the one and only time I ask you to look at your phone. Please look at your phone. It's okay. It's encouraged. In fact, go to contacts. And at the very bottom, on the right-hand side, you should see an alphabet. And at the bottom, there's a number sign. Click the number sign. And write that number in box A. And we're going to amend this a little bit. If you have a lot of people that you interact with on Facebook or Instagram, that you feel like you are going to be heavily using social media to promote and interact with people in your business, I would like for you to also real quick, jump on Facebook, go to friends and see how many it says there at the top, or go to Instagram, look at your profile and look at followers and add those numbers to A. If you think there's a whole bunch of overlap, just add the difference between the two. Does that make sense? So get a good number in A for actual contacts. Contacts are people, in my opinion, contacts are people that if at any point in time you have engaged in a two-way conversation. Does that make sense? You know who they are, they know who you are, you see their face, you recognize them, and you know their name and maybe some random thought about them, and you have a way to reach them and vice versa. Make sense? I imagine all the names that I see in black going, yes, that makes sense. I'm so glad there's people in the room with me too. So when I say things like make sense, which by the way, guys, it's a fun little non-drinking game that you can play at 1 o'clock is to count how many times I say makes sense. All right, next number. So what we find, and let me make sure I get this stat correct. According to NAR, the typical person moves every 8 years. And according to the census, home ownership rate in the US is 64.8%. Therefore, we can assume that 64.8% of your database is a homeowner, and they will move every 8 years, which is where we got the calculation of 0.081. So take the number of contacts and times 0.081. That number represents the actual people in your database doing a transaction for themselves. We're going to do another calculation though, using the number in A, move the decimal point over, divide it by 10 or multiply it by 0.10. They work the same. And put that in C. What we know is that if we make consistent value-based contact with our sphere of influence in our database, that we can expect up to a 10% referral rate. That doesn't mean those people are now moving again. It means someone they know has a real estate need, right? That is your referral opportunity. Add B and C and put that number in D. Who knows their average commission? If you don't know your average commission, you can safely use 5,000. I'd say, especially in the Central Ohio market these days, that's a pretty safe estimate, right? If you mostly work with investors, you could go down. If you mostly work with move up folks, you could go up, but this is just a ballpark, right? And then D times E equals F. That makes sense? Potential transactions times average commission, create your income opportunity. Before we hear our numbers in person, does anybody want to share their income opportunity number who's joining us via Zoom? Don't all jump in at once. All right, let's hear from you in the room. Does anybody want to share their income opportunity? Oh, you got one. Go.
823,400.
Woo, baby. No, that's per, guys, did you know that that is per year?
No.
These calculations are based on an annual return. Anybody in the room want to share their number?
245.
245,000. Awesome. 135,000. And you protect your social media and your phone or a vault, right? If you earn your way in there, you're a real friend to Amanda. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, what's your phone number? And she gives you Jansen Associates phone number. Yeah. Anybody else want to share their number? Well, let me ask it this way. If you were to earn in a year, the number in F, is that a good thing or is that not enough? There's no right or wrong answer to this.
To start.
It's a start. Okay. So the reason I asked that, and there's no right or wrong answer, what I'll tell you is if you see that number and you go, 834,000, I'm sorry, I don't know who said that, but I'm guessing if you earned that in a year, you would be happy. Yes? Yes, thank you. In the room. If so, what I'll tell you is if your income opportunity number is very, very high, okay, I would highly recommend that you focus at least over the next 30 to 90 days on contacting every single one of those people, on providing value and being a resource and figuring out how you can work with and support and help and add to the lives of those people. If your number is not astronomical, you are not excited about it, it is not high enough yet. Woo! I don't know what that one was. Someone's excited. I wonder if there's like a big delay. There might be a big delay. Okay. If your number is not as high as you would like, because let's be honest, in your earlier years in real estate, you may not yet be in a position to convert every one of those opportunities. Do you agree? All right. So if your number is not high enough, then in addition to building value and adding to the lives of those people, you also need to, every day that you work in real estate, think about how can I add more people to that list? Does that make sense? And those really are two different things, right? Okay, so my note says, remember This number represents potential, not automatic expectation. It is not if you get your license, they will come, right? And it is not if I tell them once they will remember. You have to cultivate and create that, right? Especially the referral portion. Any questions? Right. Online, if we have a little bit of a delay, if you have a question, don't raise your virtual hand, just unmute yourself and ask a question. We're all friends here. Okay. So your SOI is your database. Your contact list is your database. Your social media is another one. If you are going to be in relationship with your contacts in a professional sense, you need to have them organized and accessible in a database, right? So go ahead. So today we're going to touch a little bit on feeding the database. In the next section, we'll talk about how to make it smart. Right? And already we're going to ask for an aha. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's like we hear lead generating. Hear it.
Mhm.
Whatever you think, whatever comes down to think about it, but the aha for me is always like get back to basics, call people you know, call people that trust you, call people you've done business before, because just like the activity we did, it's all right there. It's not people you've never met. I mean, you could be. Most of the time, it's not a random person you meet on the street. It's someone you know that knows somebody who needs help. So it's always interesting to realize just get back in the phone, call people that you already have their number. You don't need other random numbers.
Yep, absolutely. I'm really glad. And, you know, this is a number that a lot of times comes out and it sounds huge, especially if you're somebody like me. Every time I meet somebody, I put them in my phone. That way because I want to know if they're calling. It's for a selfish reason. If someone's calling me, I want to know who they are. And a lot of times I want to know how I know them. And so that's how I put people in my phone. I know a lot of you guys are that way too, because when I ask for recommendations for house cleaners, it's crazy. All of their last names were cleaner. It's like, what a coincidence. Put that in the business, not in their name. Put their whole name and then put what business they are, how you know them, right? Any other ahas? Thank you for sharing, Antonio. It's online if you couldn't hear him. To paraphrase, if that's okay, Antonio said it was a reminder that lead gen doesn't always have to be brand new cold people, but that the majority of the opportunity is already available, and to just get back to the basics and follow up with people.
That was my thing. Whenever I first heard lead gen in this industry, it was like, I think it was because in my previous industry, it was always cold calls and stuff. So I thought of it as kind of a negative way. Instead of thinking about the people that I already know, didn't think about that at all. As far as the lead.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think it has to do with following up. And then I think it really does have to do with adding interest and value as well. So you can only call just so many times to remind people you're a realtor and ask for a referral. And in the interim, you have to be adding value or interest, right? All right. Thank you guys for speaking up. So let's talk about the actual lead gen model. And this is a fun graphic that looks honestly a lot more complicated than it is. We have some former salespeople in different industries, and anybody that's done any type of sales. I have sold coupons door to door. I have sold advertising. I have sold mortgages. I have sold financial advisory, and I have sold real estate. And every single one of them had the funnel. Yes. And new leads and new stuff goes in at the top, and it churns around in there, and deals come out the bottom, right? So if you think about it this way, this sort of barrel is what's happening in the funnel, right? So you got to dump everything in the top. It's a pretty crude way to say it, but it's true. You have to have contacts. You have to have leads. And then let's talk about kind of what happens with them. I like this because I think Keller Williams and a lot of the materials are going to use these terms a little differently than you're used to seeing them. So I like to kind of define them so you know what we're talking about when we say these things. A lead is someone whose information you have access to. That is a further out, if I were to draw like the bullet, the sort of the target, and I would go, here's my closest friends and family. Like the lead is the furthest out. Does that make sense? From me. I have their information. and I may or may not have a good reason to reach out to them. A contact, right, is someone with whom you have an interpersonal relationship of any level with. Leads can become contacts, right? But they're not automatically a contact. That's why I said a lot of times if somebody's in your phone, you know who they are, right? But the list of all of the parents on my son's soccer team, those are maybe all leads, but they're definitely not all contacts. The ones that I sit by and talk to at the games, they are contacts. Does that make sense? So what our job is with the database is first we have to do lead capture through prospecting and marketing. Prospecting and marketing might just mean taking your phone list and putting it into a CRM, right? That's the start of a lead capture. And anything else that you're going to do that you're going to learn about over the next 4 sessions. From there, with a lead, your only job is to build interpersonal connection to create a 2-way interaction. So my best example of a lead is somebody that clicks on a Facebook ad. They click on the Facebook ad, it asks them to verify their phone number and their email. They don't, they just click the button. And now I have their information and I can follow up with them. They're a lead. But until I actually reach them and confirm that they are a body that lives in Ohio, they don't become a contact, right? So the job of a CRM, or if your database contacts, is to turn leads into contacts. The job of your database or CRM within contacts is to strengthen relationships and cultivate for conversion, right? So you are going to learn in the next session exactly what types of touches and how many and what type and what frequency accomplish those things that have already been provided to you. And those are going to be similar to, and you'll see those mirrored in the smart plans. Okay. If you hear people talk about 8x8 or 12 direct or 36 touch, 52 touch, those are the programs that they're talking about. Right. And then of course, those things lead to transactions and referrals. But then once those transactions and referrals close, and that's what this arrow is on the side, those people don't just get pushed out. Does that make sense? You just start working them again, right? Otherwise, you only get to, if you look back at your income opportunity, if you don't put them back into the system, you only get to use them for the 0.081 conversion, and you don't get to add the 0.1, the referrals number. Make sense?
Is there any data supporting I mean, I've heard a lot from our seasoned folks that have been around that are very successful about referrals from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but is there any statistics that talk about when you're feeding back into the pipeline, I just sold you a house, or I just sold your neighbor a house, or your son or daughter, I guess is what I'm looking for, is there statistical information that tells us that they're more apt to send you something closer to that most recent transaction or later? Mm-hmm. You know where I'm going with that question?
I do understand where you're going with it, and I have seen different explanations of that. What I would tell you is that, in my opinion, the response rate is more closely tied to follow-up and continued contact and value add than it is just a random time relative to the transaction. When it's fresher to people, I think they're more likely, because it's just, that's part of what's happening in their brain daily, weekly, monthly anyway. But I don't have those statistics at hand.
I was just curious if it led to, and I'm sure in the whole Keller has got so much supporting information. But I just wonder if it led to or guided different communication things that you did at different points in that relationship.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. And I think you are really going to appreciate, and I'm going to kick myself, but I'm going to jump ahead for you. And I want to look at, you go into, stay tuned online. I know you can't see me. I went through this and I saw it in a future session. All right, stay tuned and I'll find that for you. But that's those touch programs. So we said, okay, if this person falls into this category, here's how often you should reach out to them. If they're in this other category, here's how often you should reach out to them, and here's what you need to do. There, I found it. If you,
Is it on 6.3?
I'm all the way back in 10.
Oh, gotcha.
It might, it's
just database,
introduced.
that's all.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's introduced on 6.10, where there's leads and then cements and contacts and then the frequency and type. And then you're actually going to do a ton in the lead follow-up session, which is session 10, keep every lead, where you're going to go through those in a lot more detail. So for example, it's introduced in session 6 that it says, you know, for example, here's a 19 to connect and here's what you should do. Then when you get to session 10, and this is why I think it's good that we have this whole book. So then in session 10, you're like, okay, great. So if I want to have a 19 to connect plan and I'm at 10.6, I know that I need to do 4 annual calls, texts, and conversations. So, okay, how am I going to have something new and interesting to talk about with people that I barely know 4 times a year? People go, that's not that often. I go, great. When was the last time you talked to your grandma? Did you have anything new to tell her after 6 months? How are you going to have something new to tell a stranger?
Yeah.
Right? And so planning for these things and then building them out with smart plans. I don't know if that answers your specific question, but I did think it kind of directed toward it. Right? So what we want to talk about today is more kind of at the very top of the funnel. And we want to talk about some specific things that relate to prospecting and marketing. So you want to tell me the difference between prospecting and marketing? In your book, I'm on 5.6, if you were flipping around to look at the other sections. If you want to cheat, all right. Prospecting is, if you really think about it this way, prospecting equals time, marketing equals money, right? Prospecting activities are something that is specific, that's directed, that is active, right? A lot of times it's time sensitive and it relies on you and your activities. Typically, it is a lower cost approach to generating and following up with leads versus marketing. Marketing, you know, prospecting equals time, marketing equals money. Marketing is advertising, is Facebook ads, is things that are going to take a little bit longer to come to fruition, but are going to be a little bit more passive in nature. It'd be, for example, putting somebody on a postcard plan, right? You might have to redesign the postcard, but that's going to go to 500 people. You look at it once a month and it goes out and hopefully somebody likes it, calls them, right? Money. Right? The majority of successful realtors would say that their leads are created prospecting based and marketing enhanced, right? So prospecting based low or sometimes even no cost, because you're probably paying for your phone anyway, yields fewer but higher quality leads that are more timely in nature, keeps you in direct contact with the market of the moment and increases your confidence and skill, right? Top agents track their most productive lead sources, and typically those lead sources are sphere of influence, repeat clients, referrals, and what they call in the book offline advertising. So direct mail, sign calls. Every time I go to a different grocery store, there's another realtor on the push cart, right? All of those things, right?
Take your card to it.
I'm sorry?
You take your card to it?
No, because most of the stores I go to, it's an agent from our office. Hi, Joe. Hi, Marilee. Although now I started seeing an ATR agent, so maybe I should. That doesn't seem very nice.
Give it a option.
I'll leave that to you. And if you find great
I leave
results from
cards
it, you let me
everywhere.
know.
I leave cards everywhere and I selfishly will hey, I'm a realtor, if you know anybody, you know, even the maintenance guys at my condo where I'm renting right now, I'm like, hey, guys.
Yep. So you said something I like and you said something I don't like. I like everything you said except for one word. No. No, you said selfishly. Right, Antonio was tracking with me. I don't think it's selfish at all, because I think that if you are firm in your value, then it's not selfish. It's actually giving of you to provide a service. Does that make sense?
Right.
If you are selling somebody something that they don't want, then that's kind of selfish, right? But the good news is about real estate is we're only going to help someone sell if they actually want to move, and we're only going to help somebody buy if they actually want to buy.
Right.
So that's a positive thing. I think that's fantastic. I don't know about taping cards on top of other people's paid advertising, but everything else you said, everything else you said is a thumbs up. Everything else. All right. So I think the main thing with this is two things. Number one, it's a very, very good start to be in contact with people and to have their information. And that is what we would call a database, right? I don't know where we are here. Here, there we go. A database, if you really want to think of it as it's a container, right? Or I said like it's the barrel, right? But that does not, a bowl full of ingredients is not automatically a cake. That makes sense? It's just a bowl of ingredients. You got to mix it up, put it in the oven, and make it a cake. Same thing here. Having a lot of contacts does not automatically mean that you're going to do a lot of business. And so what we want to talk about is defining those, strategizing with those, and understanding how to communicate with them effectively to turn them into referral and transaction opportunity. Right. So we already talked about the difference between a lead and a contact. Right, we already understand that. Relationships must be attended to, cared for, cultivated. How many people posted in social media and or made calls when they very first got their license? Yes, great. How many people are still congratulating you on that now if it's been 6 months or more? Why not? Who knows? Right? Maybe because you didn't follow up, maybe because they don't care anymore, probably because they have lives and they forgot, right? And Gary Keller uses this analogy, and Jason Abrams and some other people in very high levels of executive leadership in Keller Williams refer to lead generation and specifically touches and campaigns, kind of like working out. Like nobody gets buff working out once, right? Especially not the people that you would hold up as an expert in that field, right? They do it every single day. And it's really the same thing for real estate, is that we cannot automatically assume that because we told people once that they know. They know if they need you for something, right? Or if you remind them, or both. And most of the time it has to be both. They have to need you and you have to have reminded them many times. So as an example, I will ask you, let's say, however many people are in your contacts list, how many of those people, without checking, could you list their occupation? So let's say if I pulled a random list of 20 contacts out of your Facebook, how many of them could you list their occupation?
10% top.
Maybe 10, so 2? Yep. Probably more so you just remember how you met them or where you know them from, but you've no idea what they do for a living. I'm super bad about that, right? So we have to remind people constantly so that they know what it is that we're doing, especially if this is if it's not like a first job out of college, if this is a new industry for you and people are used to knowing you for something else, you have to be that much more adamant about sharing what it is that you are doing now and how you can help people. So let's talk about the types of communication, right? This is pretty straightforward. You guys know how to do all these things, yes? Yes. When was the last time anybody in the room wrote a handwritten note to someone?
A month ago today.
A month today. Nice. And from the two youngest people in the room, by the way, right? One said a month ago, one said today, right? That I really feel like is a lost art. I'll share my opinion on that with you. My opinion is that it is a beautiful, wonderful follow-up to a direct interaction, but I'm not going to spend my time handwriting notes to people that I haven't talked to in a year. Does that make sense? But it's a wonderful follow-up. And it's something that not very many people do. So when you do it, it really stands out. Christmas card doesn't count because people get 100 of those. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying don't count on it only. So I want to go back real quick because there's a section in your participant guide that I don't know if we touched on, and I want to kind of just do a quick little like glossary type thing. So page 5.8 talks about touch and campaign. So those are two terms that we're going to use quite a bit. A touch is an interaction, right? A campaign is a planned series of interactions. Pretty simple, right? I just wanted to mention that to you because those are two terms also that are used maybe differently than you might have seen in other sales types of training. We're going to go through those quite a bit. Sorry guys, catching up through my stuff. All right. Putting it all together. All right. When do you stop communicating with people?
Only when they tell you to.
That's a good, there it is. When they tell you to stop. And only when they tell you to stop. Yes? If they opt out, that's when you stop communicating with them. When they go, oh my gosh, no. Okay. Right? Otherwise, listen, here's the thing that people have maybe a misconception of is if you're not used to posting on social media every day and we go, you need to post about social media every single day. You go, oh, that's way too much. I'm like, people don't see it all. Even if this algorithm says they see it all, they don't, because what they saw was and it's gone. They only actually see and actually hear the stuff that's interesting to them. And they will pick up maybe 1 out of 10 of those. Does that make sense? And it's the same thing with all of your other prospecting and marketing. You just need to be there when they're ready. The unique thing that I have found about real estate, and I mentioned this before, you can't sell somebody's house unless they're ready. You can't help them buy unless they're ready, right? We're like that too. I used to have a lot of questions in our coaching program of like, how can I just get this person to move forward? They won't call me back. They won't get pre-approved. How can I make them move forward? I said, did you educate them about the market? Yes. Did you consistently follow up? Yes. Have you consistently demonstrated your value? Yes. Then you can. You just have to keep doing that until they're ready. And in the meantime, go find someone else who is as well, right? Because we can't push people through the cycle quicker than they're ready. All right. So let's do, any ahas? We used to ask for ahas one time at the end. Now I ask for them like every 5 minutes. Saves me from asking if it makes sense. All right. So let's talk about your sphere of influence, and let's look at this lovely picture of all the people that could be in your sphere of influence. And real quick, we're going to just jot down, we're going to do a real quick activity. And in your participant guides on 5.9, we are going to make some really quick lists. So this can be shorthand. This does, you don't have to go through your phone and all of that, but if you could name some people in these different categories. And what I would recommend is let's skip past 1 through 4. Aha, Colin's working ahead. He's like, I already did those. Why do we just, right? Skip past the 1 through 4 because I think you can rattle those off very quickly, right? And you're in daily interactions with them. Start with the 5 through 15. Actually, no fair doing 13 and naming the people in the room. But see if you can get at least one in every category. Bonus points if they're not already in your phone. So guys on Zoom, if you have a booklet, go ahead and do that. If you don't, view online page 5.9 in the participant guide, and on a piece of paper, jot down for categories 5 through, I'm gonna say 12, that's only 7. See if you can find at least one in each category, bonus points if you have more than one. I should have hold music. A good instructor would have music playing. It's not for me, it's for you. Do you like it? The folks that are in the room with me are still actively writing, so I'm gonna give it another minute. All right. I am going to run the risk of hearing crickets and ask someone online how many names they were able to jot down. Oh, crickets. Let's hear one in the room and then we'll go back to online. We'll ask again. How many names? Anybody want to share how many? 8? 12? 10? Good? 18. All right. What ballpark do you know without checking if any of those are not in your phone or social media? A couple? Okay. Okay. Teachers? Yep. Yeah. So everybody was able to think of at least one more person that they could add to their database today. Was anybody not able to think of at least one that they don't have in their phone or social media already? Right. And all I did was just ask you to randomly think about it for a minute. Right. The idea being, and going back to Antonio, to your aha, is again, they're already there. Right? They're already there. They are closer and easier to reach than a random person on the street. But our tendency as realtors is to try to go find the random person on the street and convince them to buy or sell a house. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. I hear much more fear and trepidation for calling the guy that you graduated high school with than I do calling back a sign call, or literally picking up the phone and dialing a complete stranger. We used to do an exercise in Bold. Bold is a class that comes around once or twice a year. Very intensive, full day, once a week, including lots and lots of contacts and activities. And we always make calls in the actual class itself. Like 100 people get on the phone at the same time. It sounds like a call center, but it's kind of cool. And we just say they're home and they're happy to hear from me. And you call them. They're home and they're happy to hear from me. Hi. Now we do a lot more texting now, but it's kind of a fun activity. All right. Thank you guys. So if you were to add to your database and you think about it, let's say if you added 5, right? And I'm going to do some really quick shorthand math, but the combination between the referral opportunity and the direct transaction opportunity is about 20%, right? So 0.1 plus 0.081. I'm rounding. You stick with me, right? If you added 5, there's a potential for another deal this year. Does that make sense? So we don't need 1,000 leads. We just need 5 carefully cultivated contacts, right? All right, moving forward. Categorizing your sphere of influence you will find very helpful. Understanding what category people are in so that you can actually add value, right? And building your SOI day by day. System doesn't like when I click too fast. It's like, hey, no, you're talking. All right. Some different ways that you can expand your sphere of influence. I think this is where we do this, right? Just some ideas to get your brain going. Number one would be, and I'm looking at participant guide page 5.11, to gather additional personal information. There is a very specific script for that. Not going to tell you where it is right now because I don't want you to go to the back of the book, but we'll go through it together towards the end, right? Well, I just told you where it's at. It's in the back of the book. Strengthening casual connections, right? I personally have a goal I eat lunch every day. And so once a week, I want to eat lunch with someone else, someone that I haven't touched base with in a long time. I have never invited somebody to lunch sometime soon and then go, no, I'm good. Always they're like, yes. And it's all those people that you go, we should get together more often. And then you never do. I don't know. I have a lot of guys in the room today. They probably don't say, we should get together more often. Guys say that too, right?
There's like a guy
Oh,
person,
this was
it's not
fun.
the exact word
It doesn't
for
sound the
Yeah.
same, right?
Like
They go, why don't we ever?
Whenever I have a beer.
Sometime.
Yeah, we should get a beer sometime.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sometime, that's it. Let me put it in the book.
Yeah.
Sometime, got it. Someplace cool, got it that too. So that's kind of my part of this to share with you is I'm going to eat lunch every day anyway. Once a week, I'm going to try to have a plan, and I'm just going to choose like a specific day of the week. Wednesdays and Thursdays seem to work, and I go to wherever is convenient for them in town, and we have lunch. I don't buy lunch every time. It doesn't cost me anything. And I'm just kind of strengthening those individual relationships and kind of starting with people that I think, frankly, have lived in the same place for a long time, right? Are at an age where they might be going through some changes that created need in real estate, that kind of thing, right? And we're just going to have lunch and catch up, right? I'm still only going to count it as one contact, but it's a fun one, right? Joining groups. And then, of course, asking for referrals. If you are going to spend time, and now YP is valuable, I'm not going to say that it doesn't have value, but if you are going to only be able to choose one networking group that you do, try to make sure you're one of the only, if not very few, realtors that's in that group. It doesn't have to be a business-related group. Mine is a charity group. We raise money for Habitat for Humanity. We put on events in Westerville. So come to Tapestry of a Town. You'll be the youngest people there. It'll be great. So that's one of the networking groups that I join. That's something I get to do, and kind of that's going to add to my database, and I'll follow up. What have you guys done, or what would you like to do to add to your database, specifically adding to your sphere of influence, creating new contacts, adding value? What have you done? What would you like to do? Go ahead.
Piggyback off the networking group, I guess. I joined the Amspirit group.
Amspirit?
Amspirit is, if you're familiar, the best part to me is, well, we gotta find a good group. It's really important, people you can do well with.
Yes.
But it is nice because there's only one person per professional category, so if you're in it, you're the only builder. Like we all know, everybody in there still knows 3 or 4 others, but
of course,
you know, like and trust them. Get them to reciprocate it. I've been in it since February. I've already got like 4 weeks from it.
That's great.
But you have to like go out and like refer them business first and try to find the right people to refer them to. Hope it works, and then hopefully get back. Whatever. It's a really good way if you're willing to stick to it.
Great. Amspirit is a great group, and Amspirit is specifically very straightforward that they are a networking group based on the expectation of mutual referrals. So you go in knowing that, right? Makes sense. Anybody else?
So I'm working on a plan to create content to post. And you talk about reasons to reach out with people, and sometimes you blow up your own network, whether it's small or big. it's something I've found helpful in the past. I just need to get my mind around, get with the right team members and or people, and you know, Obi and I were brainstorming about it for a while, is, and you mentioned it also, posting, not everybody's gonna see every post you do, but rather than, you know, I introduced my plan to become a realtor, and then I passed that, then I put out my business card and did that. And then now is what I want to do is start posting helpful content, just like real quick, short little video of, you know, what are 5 interesting things in the market, or what, you know, I mean, I'm just brainstorming and working with other people on different ideas to put out there as, I'm just throwing out information for you to think about.
Okay.
And then hopefully, I've seen it in the past, but hopefully then that each time they see me, they're gonna think of, when they think of real estate or something like that, oh, Mark's always posting helpful stuff out there.
Yeah. So I think that absolutely falls into the category of staying top of mind. It absolutely falls into the category of marketing, even though it doesn't cost money. And I would encourage you to also question. So what I picture as casting is what you're adding value, you're providing information, right? And like, I'd say this, those are excellent. And I think you should do that. That sounds wonderful. And what is going to be the component that you can add to it, whether it's now or you wait a little while and then add it later, that's going to draw contacts to you so that it can become a two-way conversation.
Well, I want to create a call to action.
Correct. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is consider, you know, fishing has 2 parts, the cast and the reel. And if all you do is cast, you have a lot of hooks out,
right?
But there could be fish and you're not bringing them in. So I would just say, yes, 1000%. I love that. And we do that in our team as well. And the call to action that you're talking about, how can you add that, and how can that increase in frequency and strength over time, such that people understand that you are not just a cool resource, you're not just a podcast, right? Like I said, but that they need to reach out to you. So could that be, here's a snippet, and I have 15 more, but they're too long to put on Facebook. So let me know if you want those and I'll send them to you. And someone has to raise their hand and say, I want those, I want those, I want those. And they can just comment and you can go through and send those to those people, something like that. Right? Not every time, but just to have a component of that. It's similar to putting the cards all over town is wonderful. And you should not stop doing that. And every time you meet someone, if you give them a card, you should collect one too. Same thing. Yep. And you're not doing those things. You're just also doing the collection component as well.
Do we see any success from asking for feedback or asking for, you know, like say for instance, and again, I'm just thinking out loud, but if you post something on, whether it's on the values of a home inspection, or whether it's on the state of the market today, or whether it's on whatever it's on related to real estate. I'm just curious, because part of that I've thought about is, I wonder if you do, you know, hey, here's something that we're seeing in industry. You know, I wonder if a call to action could be as simple as a question of saying, you know, what frustrations or what questions, you know, I mean, whether it's asking, what frustrations are you seeing in the market?
Yep.
What are things that make you question whether you should buy or sell right now?
Yeah. Asking a question is a great call to action, a great way to engage in conversation. I would keep it as specific as possible.
Right.
Because if it's very general, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get any response. The ones that, yeah, right. Or you just get people posting articles, or people wanting to debate you, or whatever it might be. But I see it a lot in a little bit more lighthearted way, just with like city or country, or, you know, French, you know, colonial, or, you know, modern, little things like that. Or like vote for whether or not I should make my next video about this or that. Or like Josh will do something funny and like, you know, tell me if I should bring back, I forget what the name is that he gave his character that wears the USA headband thing. You know, tell me if I should bring back that character or whatever. I don't even know. But asking questions is a great way to engage. And snippets. Making things as small as possible so that you can use them so you don't burn through all of your content. Yeah. So if you're going to do 5 things I've noticed about the market, you go 1 on Monday, 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, 1 on Thursday, 1 on Friday. And if there's something you've noticed about the market, I'd love to hear it rather than like one video that's 5 things. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm way over talking this into, there's a whole session on social media marketing, and that person will be able to help you out more and a lot more content too. And I do that. I said I wasn't going to do that, and I go into the future courses. All right. Bold law, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Has anything changed for you guys around how you think about lead generation?
About 6 months ago, Chris, which we should have done earlier, but Christian and I decided to take the word buy out of anything we posted, just sell. Because obviously we had a ton of them.
Because you had so many buyers in the summer.
Couldn't get anything anyway, so whatever. It did turn out that I don't know if you technically measure that, but it seemed to turn out better responses to things, but it's just something so intentional of if you want sellers, stop using the word buy, stop using the word buy, like, or vice versa. If you want buyers, stop using the word sell, just use the only word you want people to see. We kind of stole that from the lending group at KW. They have listing agents and buying specialists, and they only use the right terms for each other. I think we kind of, people think you're in, they think sell.
Yes, absolutely. I see that a lot. The other thing I noticed is that you should, and I actually got this, I was proven by an agent that I know of who only works kind of like Sue. He has not been in the business that long. I want to say maybe like 5 or 6 years. And he works almost exclusively in the luxury market, over 600,000, mostly in the Worthington to Dublin, you know, sort of outlying corridor, right? And we had a conversation one time, and I said, "You just like, how did you do that?" You know what he said? I learned about it. I said I was the expert. I became the expert, and then I told everybody that's what I do, and now that's what I do. Like, it was the most simple thing in the world, but it was like, if you want to talk about luxury, talk about luxury. If you want to work in luxury, start learning about and talking about luxury. If you want to represent sellers, talk about sellers. If you want to add value for sellers, talk about sellers, talk about staging, talk about marketing, talk about those things. If you can still represent buyers, you guys aren't going to turn away buyers, correct?
Correct.
You would never turn away a buyer, regardless of the price point or practically regardless of the area. If you can get there, you're going to rep them, right? But that's not who you're going to seek out to add, right? Typically speaking, we have to go find sellers. Buyers find us. We still have to be active. We still have to be doing our jobs, but there's a lot more unrepresented buyers than there are unrepresented sellers out there in the marketplace. For the sole simple reason of, like, they bought the house from somebody, right? They know at least one realtor. Yes, probably 2. The one that represented them and the one that represented the other people. And they probably sat at a table with everybody all together. Back in the day, we had
I had one of
closings.
those, and it was my first one. I've only had
Yeah.
one around the table closing. It was interesting.
I work really hard not to anymore, to be honest with you. They're just not fun, and they take forever. And as asking questions, it's awkward, whatever. But it does have volume.
Yeah.
Right? All right, let's move on. We're not going to do ahas. Okay, ways that you can expand. Now, we already went through this. Expanding, adding personal information, networking, casual connections, join groups, ask for referrals. Got it. All right, let's look at this. these are some sample conversation starters and ways that you can ask for business. I like these because they've been rewritten to be more value add and less aggressive than I find that most people speak to the people that they know. I don't believe, and if you find it, let me know, but I do not think these are in your book. So you will have to read them and or take a picture and or write them down, right? I'm building my business on people I know and the people they know. Do you know anyone from family or friends, work or your neighborhood, or maybe a group you belong to who's thinking of buying, selling a home, or investing in real estate? I'd be pleased to be a resource for them. Scripts are meant to be an outline. This language is a little bit more formal than I would normally speak to people that I know. So I don't know that I would say it exactly like this, but what I would do is I would break up some of the components a little bit and then I would use those components, right? Those components are, I'm a realtor, yes? I'm building my business. People I know and the people they know. And then you're giving people lots of ideas of who they might know from all these different places. And I would make one of those really personal. If I know that they attend church regularly, I would say from church. If I know that their child plays soccer, I would say from soccer, right? And I'd love to be a resource, or I'd be happy to answer questions. I use the word help a lot. I really, though, think I might switch it out with resource. I'd be happy to be a resource to them or a resource for them. I don't use the word pleased, so I probably wouldn't say that, but I do like the word resource a lot because you're not asking for a sale. You're offering a resource, offering a service. And they are almost always going to say, do you know anyone? And what do they say? Not right now. Can't think of anybody right now. But they're always going to say that. And then you would just say, if you hear of somebody, will you keep me in mind? And would you be willing to let me know? All right. We're not going to have to belabor that. But this can be really awkward or it can be really natural. The way that I have heard that people can do it the most naturally is that you start out asking someone either what they do or how their work is going. And they in return answer that, and then they ask you. Or they don't even answer that because they're a lot more interested in the real estate market and what they read online and what they heard on, on a talk show this morning than they are about whatever it is that they do. And they're like, me? Same old, but man, real estate's crazy, right? I heard it's crazy. Do people say that kind of stuff to you? Yes. And how you answer that is the difference between what Sue talked about with a value proposition and just shooting the shit with somebody. Yeah, that's a huge opportunity when someone brings that up to you. And right now, everybody wants to talk about real estate. Everybody wants to talk about what they know about real estate and ask you what's going to happen in the next 10 years and check your crystal ball real quick, right? I like this though. Be a resource. Woo, any ahas? We got so many ahas. All right, we're going to move on. Lead gen best practices. So first of all, keep track. I know a lot of realtors, some who have been in business for a month, some who have been in business for 20 years, and they make lots of contacts and they do lots of business, and they could not begin to tell you when the last time was that they talked to a specific person or about what they talked about. Does that make sense? So keep track in whatever way works for you. What I will say is that it should be something, think about what you start with and whether or not it will work for you in 5 years. Does that make sense? So I know a lot of people that start with legal pads, and that's fine. or they start with putting stuff in their phone or putting stuff in their Google Calendar, and that is keeping track. But how long does that live? Does that make sense? Because you guys don't want to be out of real estate in a year or two, right? I assume you're in it. You're sticking in it, yes? And what you do now, you want to be able to revisit in the future to figure it out. Command does have very good contact tracking. If you don't have the Command app on your phone, that's the easiest thing that I have found to create a contact for somebody. And then if you hit the call button inside the Command app to call them, or you hit the text button from there, it still texts them from your regular phone, but Command will automatically log that as an interaction, as a text interaction for them. Audit your lead sources. Know as you start receiving leads, keeping track of that as well, so that every transaction you close, you're marking where it came from, right? Diversify your database. You guys are really working on doing that, right? And diversify obviously does not refer to race. It refers to needs. It refers to age. It refers to areas. It refers to all of the different ways that people could have different needs in that database. Be consistent, and most importantly, time block. I'm a little iffy when they talk about time blocking for lead gen, because for me, the results, remember when Sue was talking about personality profiles? I am a ID, which means I highly value relationships and personal interactions, but and we got stuff to do, right? So for my personality type, if I say I'm going to make calls for 2 hours, I could talk to 3 people in 2 hours, especially if one of them is Sue, right? So I am a big fan of, yes, time blocking, so you know when you're going to do the activity, but also setting a specific goal of contacts or interactions as well, so that you know that you're moving through it and that you can measure your effectiveness and your real activity and results from that, right? Because there are people who can have 10 high quality interactions very quickly and move forward. And there are people for whom that is going to take 3 hours, right? And also knowing what time you have and what goals you have set gives you that license to say, oh my God, and my favorite line is, oh my gosh, I have taken up so much of your time. I am so sorry. I'm going to let you go, but I want to check back in on that with you next week. Can I do that? They go, oh yeah, that's fine. I go, great, thank you. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Do that on listing appointments too, by the way, because I used to go on 3-hour listing appointments and I was exhausted. Preview. I'm not teaching that, but I do say when I go on a listing appointment, I say, now I've actually set aside 1.5 hours to be in your home. Is that okay, or is that too long? We have a lot to go over. Would that be okay? And they go, yeah, or you can say 1 hour or whatever, and you plan it, and then you set an alarm. Amanda knows how to set lots of alarms. And you set an alarm and you go, oh my gosh, our time is up. I know I only asked you for 1.5 hours and I'm going to stick to that, but I really appreciate it. And thank you, right? Because they don't want you in there for 3 hours either. Spoiler alert. All right. Best way you can make the most of your time block is build a bunker, store provisions, sweep for mines, and list support, right? What does build a bunker mean to you guys? Yeah. Yeah. Plan the physical location and space from which you're going to do your lead gen activity. And that's going to vary depending on what type of activity it is, that you are insulated from distractions, right? For a lot of people, that means not having certain things in space rather than having everything in space. Okay. Store provisions. I mean, I don't know. Does everybody need to eat more frequently than every 2 hours? Probably just, I don't know, a glass of water or some tissues or something. I don't know what those provisions would be. Can you guys think of what that would be?
I think what you said, right? Like water.
Yeah. Coffee? Yes. Yeah, it's 2 o'clock. I've still got coffee. All right. Sweep for minds. What distractions will you remove, right? So as an example, what's that?
Notifications, like turn off the notifications.
Turn off notifications,
I was gonna
okay?
say, Apple has the, if you have Apple, you do not disturb features that they've expanded. It's not just like,
Yes,
you don't get any calls, you can still get calls from family, you know, if you need whatever.
Whatever.
But like any random other person who contacts you, don't get the text phone, and I use that when I do TV too. It's so helpful.
mhm,
It turns out Instagram, Facebook, any notification, it's really, really helpful.
mhm, absolutely. I've done that individually with certain notifications before, but the new do not disturb is so much easier. It's so much easier, and then you don't have to restart everything. Yeah, absolutely. Good deal. That's very helpful. The other thing is that if you plan ahead, and you know, as an example, okay, my lead gen is going to be, and you'll learn about this more, prospecting in Facebook, right? Then you might need to set up some type of a check-in that reminds you very frequently why you are in Facebook. I just, not that I'm speaking from experience, but I know a guy who intends to prospect in Facebook, and instead looks at Facebook, right? So stuff like that, right? And enlist support. And this is where an accountability partner comes into play. This is where if you have teammates or if your bunker is at home that you're sharing with people, and you've seen around the office, do you see the signs that go on people's doors that say like, I'm lead genning, or like Jennifer, she does that when she's transmitting the books at the end of each month for a day. She's like, hey, unless it's an emergency, or I used to joke around and I say, unless you're bleeding, I don't need to know right now. That kind of a thing, and just say, hey, here's what I'm doing for the next hour and a half. And unless you really, really need something, this is paramount to my real estate business, right? Used to say, treat it like a $1 million listing appointment. If somebody asked you to go on a $1 million listing appointment tomorrow at 9 a.m., what would stop you from going on that listing appointment?
That's bad.
Right? And are you going to be prepared? Are you going to know what you're going to say? Are you going to know where you're going and how to get there and how long the drive is going to be? Right? Are you going to have like a script, or at least bullet points, and you know what you want to talk about? And are you going to have a goal for the outcome? Right? So if you have all of those components in your lead gen, it will happen, right? But because it's not on fire and we're not putting it out, and because it's not fun and we mistake effort for excitement, a lot of times we don't do it as often as we should. All right. Questions, ahas? No? We are pretty much on schedule. So let's talk about the success system. Have you guys worked the success system yet? You know what that is when I say that? Does that sound familiar? Has any of the, okay. This is why doing the Ignite the way that we are is a little bit of a challenge, because normally you would have class in the morning, activity in the afternoon, and that's when you would do this. So for this section, and this is, by the way, at the end of every section, every course, this daily success system, this is how Ignite gets people deals. It's not from sitting in class, okay? It's from making contacts. The recommendation is per day, when you are newer in real estate or while you're in Ignite, that you're having 10 conversations. You're adding 10 contacts to your database. And by database, I mean your chosen CRM that you are going to use to interact with people. For you guys that are on teams, your teams have a specific one that they want you to use. If they don't, then Command is a great functional one to use, right? So you're going to have 10 conversations. You're going to add 10 people to the contacts. Easy peasy, by the way. Add the 10 people you had the conversations with. Don't say that you have to add 1,000 people today, because that's very daunting. Say, okay, I'm going to have 10 conversations. I'm going to remember who I talked to, and then I'm going to put those people in Command, right? 10 handwritten notes, again, can be those same people, or if you want to change it up a little, it's the people you talked to yesterday or last week, right? I would say you push it forward so that there's a little bit of time in between. You can write the notes that day for those people, but hold it and mail it next week so that there's some time in between your interactions. Does that make sense? Right? The 10.5.1 social media engagement, which you'll read about and learn about. And then enrichments, which would be things like previewing homes, attending classes, viewing the monthly housing report on MLS, those types of activities, right? That is the success system. So whenever we talk about that, and the last thing I want to do and work through the material itself is I want to look at a script, because I think that we do a really good job telling you that you need to talk to people and talk to people and talk to people and talk to people, and not giving you great strength in what to say. And the nice thing about these books is that you have it. So what I'm looking at is in the back behind the last session is session C, Appendix C, Conversations to Spark Your Career. In the appendix of Ignite are lots and lots and lots and lots of scripts. Oh, hold on, I have to do something real quick. Oh boy. Are you ready? You've never heard this before. Where's it at? Today, you are going to make calls to your sphere and people in your database. Before you make any calls or texts, please remember to honor the TCPA and do not call lists, including those of your market center and state. If you have any questions or concerns about this, please consult your market center or your attorney to ensure compliance. Refer to the pages at the beginning of your participant guide for more details. These guidelines are for your protection as well as for the protection of your clients. Let's review the importance of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act and the do not call restrictions for when you make calls or texts to your database. Turn to the pages in your participant guide and let's go over this. Please, before you make calls, read the guidelines in the TCPA, which are at the very front of the appendix. They're also at the very front of the Ignite book there. I met my legal responsibility to read the disclosure to you. Now, at the front of the appendix where it says contents, the ones that I have highlighted that I think are really great for our session right now, the new to real estate conversation is great. Introducing and identifying yourself as an agent is great. The one I would recommend that I'd like us to practice together is inventory conversation starter and remind them you're in real estate. So let's look at C6. I like this one because this is the one that Sue was paraphrasing. I don't even know if she knew that this was in here. That's just what she does. But this is an idea of a way that you can immediately create validity, immediately add value and interest. This is something that a lot of people are talking about in their day-to-day life anyway. And you can replace these statistics with literally anything else you want. This is the one I also like because it doesn't require that you know somebody super well. If you're not comfortable asking them about their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, you are comfortable sharing a detail about real estate, right? So. This one is a little wordy. I would say that you could pick one of the stats in these first few. Does that make sense? Do some research, but then focus on having this access and then sharing it with people in the context of it actually applying to them. Does that make sense? So, let's see. Rising, don't say rising inventory and longer selling times. Okay, we're going to choose a different. Okay, I changed my mind because that one's written for a different one. All right. How about this? How about on the next page? It is remind them you're in real estate. Somebody else want to be the agent, or do you want me to be the agent? Anybody want to be the agent? Thank you, Antonio. I will answer the phone. Hello,
Oh, that's you saying hello. Okay.
I'm saying hello.
Hello, this is Antonio Romanelli. Do you have a moment?
Yeah, hey, what's up?
Nothing much. It's been a while. I'd like to apologize for not staying in touch. How have you been?
Pretty good. Pretty good, thank you.
Good. How's work going?
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah.
Keeping you busy?
Yeah, the factory is busy as ever.
Good. How about the kids?
All 7 of them are excellent.
Perfect. Sounds like you might need some more bedrooms. I've been growing my real estate business with Keller Williams Excel. I work with great clients like me. I want to share that I have a personal goal of helping 10 families get the home of their dreams this year. As you already know, I'll do whatever it takes to help people in that county to help me reach my goal.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know how I could help you.
No worries. Things always come around a little later than you think. I'd like to share my free real estate app with you. It's easy to check out so it's for sale in your area, your street, or any place in the world. I can send you a text link if that's good.
Sure. Yeah.
I'd also like to offer you a real estate update on your neighborhood. All I need is your current address and email, and I will send it to you right away. You don't need to waste any more of your time.
Oh, okay. So you just need what now?
Your email address.
Oh,
And address.
yes.
Perfect.
Factory worker mom of 7 at yahoo.com. I've had it for a long time.
Perfect.
Yes.
Not really.
No, it says if referral given, if no referral given. So, but it doesn't ask for a referral, ironically. So I guess we'll go to no. You did not. And that's okay. That's good.
I was gonna add in here,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes for like reminder of real estate, and I'm happy to say, I thought about it because what it says here. I always like will say, if I know somebody lives in, just say like Carlsbad, but something comes up in Carlsbad, and I would send it to them, like, hey, this is up for sale in your neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a reminder.
Yes.
Whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, the neighborhood update could be the one in command, or it could be through the MLS, right? Point is not the vehicle. The point is that something is going to them, right? I wanted to draw you guys' attention to these. I think with any script, if you read it exactly as a script and you read it once or twice and then you try to read it and say it to somebody, like that was Antonio's first time reading this. Antonio's an excellent agent, and did that sound natural like Antonio?
Yeah.
Just now.
I mean, it was pretty good.
I think no.
No,
I think it was
it was good
I
for
think
just
it-
looking at it.
And it's not
I'm not
because,
gonna lie, I didn't read a single thing on the page. I just saw buzzwords. I was just.
yeah, you were just, yeah, but so my point though is that as good of an excellent of a realtor as you are, when you read a new script for the first time, it sounded like a script.
Yeah.
And it would have sounded like a script if I read it for the first time, if Julie Wells, who's an amazing agent, read it for the first time, if Joe Riddler read something for the first time, right? And that's why I think it's important with these, and you made a good point, Antonio. I would take this and I would highlight or I would underline or circle the buzzwords, and I would keep the intention in mind and make sure, like my goal for an interaction is I never say more than 3 sentences before they say something in return. So if you look at your plans and it's going to take you more than 3 sentences to get there, that's too many. They need to respond, right, for it to be a good quality interaction and not a, I always joke around and I say, any kid that comes and knocks on my door selling something, I'm buying. I need to start keeping just a $5 bill by the door, right? But what they do, have you noticed, they have their thing and they come and they say, hello, ma'am, I am from such and such baseball team. And they go, blah, 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 blah. Like, don't do that. A couple sentences response, but these are really good outlines. I think the main thing is that they all have the same components. They all have reintroducing yourself, reminding them you're in real estate, an offer of value, a reason to follow up. So if you don't have your name, I'm in real estate, item of value, reason to follow up, then that's not a conversation that's going to lead to conversion in real estate. Still a nice conversation, and there's no reason not to have those, right? But these are the lead gen sort of strategy ones, right? The components.
Billy was just missing something about like, he was asking you for help. It just should have said something about like referrals or something like that.
Yeah.
Like mentioned it there, then I think it would have been pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So I do like the asking for help. And when I said, I don't know how I could help you, you already helped me buy a house. That's where daily real conversation Antonio would have said, yeah, I know, and that was really fun. I need more of you. But he was going by the script that we gave him, so he didn't, but that's where that would go very clearly is, I'd gladly help you. I don't know what you expect. I already bought, you're not selling my house. I'm living here forever. By the way, they never lived there.
They'll tell you that.
They'll tell you that because they think that. It's just not true. So that's where Antonio normally would have converted that for sure. Right. Most of the time, though, you're not going to get a direct referral when you call to ask for the referral. But you will get an approval to follow up. Daily success systems, TCPA. What is that? I closed my book too soon. I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in relationship with me. That's where I said value, right? Adding value all the time. It's on the screen. It's a nice quote. It's not attributed to anybody. Guys, I wrote this. Isn't that insightful? I don't speak that good. I don't talk that good. All right. We did our role play. We did our real play. Now you got to go do your success systems. So in the next session, which I just want to go to real quick, I kind of want to give you just a little bit of a preview. So you are going to start actually adding to your database, learning how to feed your sphere of influence, and then talking about some really specific touch plans, and actually starting to write out some of your touch plans and how you are going to reach out to people, right? So we're going to introduce the 19 to connect, the cement, and the 36 to convert. Okay. Questions? We blew through that pretty quick. If there's anything you want to revisit, or if there's any scripts that you're interested in, there's a lot in here. Not every instructor will have time to go through those, but as you do, I find them very, very helpful, especially if you need to have tough conversations that are topic specific, and you can kind of flip through those and kind of get some indications of things. Right. What I would tell you is the most important thing you can do. I'll be honest, the first most important thing you can do is have leads, but great news, you guys all have at least the lowest potential value I heard was over $100,000. That was the lowest, right? Where realtors fail, and the statistics that I have heard are, NAR asked people when they do a transaction, how likely are you to use the same realtor in the future? And over 80% say, yes, I will use that realtor, right? What's that?
It's like 17 or something actually do %.
And less than 20% actually do. Now, in some cases, that person might not be in the business anymore. They might not work the area anymore. Who knows? More likely, they're just not top of mind anymore, right? And that's where if you can think of your database as twofold. Number one, I want to be there for every one of them that buys and sells. But two, I want them and me to keep in mind that I need their referrals. Because most people only do number 1 and not number 2. And continually add snippets of value, right? That's the best thing you can possibly do. And follow up ad nauseum with every single lead, no matter how random it might be. I have a listing coming up. You guys will get it soon. 400,000-ish in New Albany. I met her at an open house for a house she did not like and did not buy for the first time ever a couple months ago. Still haven't helped her buy anything, but we're listing her house in New Albany, right? And it was mostly demonstrate value, create validity, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. Instead of add new leads, none of them are ready. Add new leads, none of them are ready. Add new leads, none of them are ready. These leads are crap. Tried that too. Go forth. That's the end. I don't know how else to end it. I don't clap. That always makes me uncomfortable. You should bow. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you guys. If you're online and you're still actually there, I don't know because you're all black screens, but thank you very much. If you were listening, I appreciate you. Have a great day.